Hello, very good morning and welcome to Athavan newspaper highlights. Today is Saturday, 21st of May 2016. This is Edward Udedas Devasakayam Pillai with the highlights of today's English newspapers. Firstly, let's have a look on the Daily Mirror. The main headline of the Daily Mirror says about the disasters due to the inclement weather of Sri Lanka. Flood relief distribution needs attention. 427,918 affected people. 105,360 affected families. 64 deaths, 131 missing. Even though lorry loads of dry rations, food and other requirements were pouring into the flood-affected areas in Kalanimulla and other areas in Colombo, people complained that there was no proper ground-level mechanism to ensure that they reached the people who were actually affected and in need of assistance. People who were displaced by the floods in some areas in Kalaniya, Kalanimulla, Bogahawata and Angoda alleged that no responsible officer was there in the ground level to monitor the process of providing dry rations given by various donors and well-wishers from all parts of the country. Another highlight says natural disaster. The torrential rains, the widespread floods and the landslides which badly affected 19 districts of Sri Lanka from May 14 was the result of a depression in the atmosphere over the Indian Ocean. Kalaniganga, one of the country's main river basins with a rainfall of 350 mm from May 15 to 17, had overflowed its banks with the floods, causing severe damage to property and livelihoods. Secondly, let's move to Daily News. The main headline of the Daily News says, "No danger, remain vigilant." Ministry appoints committee to look into displaced people's needs. 63 deaths, over 130 people missing, over 13,770 people rescued by Navy. The water levels in many of the flooded areas are receding slowly, Disaster Management Minister Anura Priyadarshana Yapa said yesterday as the government prepared for the long haul. The minister asked the displaced not to return home for at least the next 2 or 3 days as they expected the rains to continue. The next step is looking after the people in camps. We have several in Kolanawa and Kaduwala, and while we have food supplies for them, we need to have more places for them to stay and build more toilets, the minister said at a media briefing at the Department of Irrigation. The ministry has appointed a committee to look into the basic needs of the displaced people. The ministry is also looking into engaging in a cleanup activities and monitoring of disease in camps. Finance Ministry spends 1,588 million rupees on flood relief. The Finance Ministry has spent 1,588 million rupees by 6:30 p.m. on Thursday for provision of relief on the catastrophic flood-affected people, Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake said in Parliament yesterday. He added that President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe have instructed to spend whatever the money required to provide relief to the people, although various statements have been made by the opposition that only 150 million rupees has been allocated to provide flood relief. Minister Karunanayake said various groups have made statements on the catastrophic situation in the country. The President and Prime Minister too made statements on Thursday evening. Hotline 1919 receives over 20,000 calls daily. The Government Information Center is available for 24 hours on a request by President Maithripala Sirisena, has received over 20,000 calls daily from flood-affected victims. The facility is available free of charge, SLT Chairman P.G. Kumarasinghe Sirisena said. No epidemic reported from welfare camps. No epidemic has been reported from welfare camps on the affected areas. People affected by the adverse weather conditions are free of disease, Health Services Director General Dr. Palitha Mahipala said after touring the welfare camps with the Chief Epidemiologist Dr. Paba Palihawadana. He said the only issue is the people are subject to skin infections because they are constantly in contact with the flood water. Finally, let's move to Ceylon Today. The main headline of the Ceylon Today says, country insured for 10 billion rupees, covers natural disasters. Budget 2016 took out a 10 billion rupees national insurance policy with the National Insurance Trust Fund providing it with insurance cover against disaster damage, Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake said yesterday. Another highlight says, Indian ships bring flood aid. India's Southern Naval Command in Kochi, Kerala yesterday morning sent 2 shiploads of relief supplies for Sri Lanka's flood and landslide victims. Landslide victims. Modi sends condolences. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi condoled with Sri Lankans on the tragic loss of lives in floods and landslides in several parts of the country caused by relentless heavy rains lashing the country for a fortnight. Modi tweeted, "Deepest condolences and sympathies at the loss of lives in Sri Lanka due to inclement weather. We stand resolutely by to help the government and people of Sri Lanka. Assistance being rushed on emergency basis." Another highlight says, Met Department informs rains cloud ease off soon. The Department of Meteorology yesterday predicted that torrential rains lashing the country were likely to recede in a few days' time, but warned that the high rainfall patterns could continue unabated over the next few days in several areas. The low pressure belt is moving away from the island. With that, let's come to an end of today's paper highlights. We will come with more news tomorrow morning. Thanks for listening to Athavan Newspaper Highlights.